welcome to today's Medical Alley webinar titled Why MedTech Needs to Break Up with Traditional CRM. I'm Ben Wagner. I'm the Associate Director of Communications here at Medical Alley and your host for today's conversation. First, I do want to say thank you to the team at Salesforce for their support and for their partnership. I think you're going to really enjoy the conversation here today. Let's dive in. MedTech commercial teams are navigating faster cycles, more complex stakeholder maps, and higher expectations for personalization, areas where legacy CRMs can often stall. So today, we'll focus on what it actually takes to evolve beyond those limitations. And we are really fortunate today to be joined by a true expert in this space, Gordon Friesen, the General Manager for MedTech and Patient Engagement within the Life Sciences Cloud at Salesforce. With more than 25 years in the life sciences industry, Gordon has helped organizations solve complex business challenges through CRM and digital technology. During his 11 years at Salesforce, he's guided strategy across Health Cloud and the Life Sciences Cloud, and of course brings deep experience spanning everything from development to product management to solution delivery. So with that, Gordon, we really appreciate your time and your insight for being here, and I will hand it over to you to get this conversation started.
Thanks, Ben. Welcome, everybody, and thanks, everybody, for your time for joining us today. So I want to spend a few minutes just speaking about Life Sciences Cloud and Salesforce's perspective on MedTech, and back to that initial question, why we need to change our view of CRM and MedTech. So jumping right in, honestly, MedTech has been going through a lot over the last few years, right? We've really seen the push to really provide more value from the effort that we're doing in the field, whether it's internally as well. And really, there's more expectations on people like reps or middle or back office people more than ever, right? And it really is a few key areas where that kind of pressure is really being pushed. It's like we need to deliver better personalized experiences, more in line with maybe what people would experience in more of the consumer world, right? What a customer might feel in other tools and other experiences they have and in other places in their lives. It's really also about making sure that we navigate really complex environments to sell these products and to service these products, whether that's a very complicated hospital system or whether it's maybe direct to consumer plus distribution and other things that we need to deal with to make sure that we actually sell products and serve our customers. It's also engaging across all the different channels that customers and patients, as an example, are also looking to engage, right? Whether that's a mobile app or whether that's a web experience or a direct face-to-face or a virtual experience as well. Making sure all of those experiences wrap together to make a single experience for that customer. And then really also, driving that top line and bottom line. We need to be able to do more with less. We need to have more impact on, revenue and top line, but also in a way, reduce the spend and the effort that it takes to do those top line increases. And if you look across the board, this isn't really just true for salespeople, but this is kind of true for just about anybody. Roughly 70% of the effort that people are spending isn't directly having outcome. Like it might be supporting outcome, but it's not necessarily driving to a sale or supporting a patient or a customer. It's a lot of repetitive or manual work that we need to do to move the system forward. So traditional systems really haven't been the right answer for this, right? CRM has been a bit of a bad word in this space. And really, there's a few kind of key areas where we see maybe pushback and maybe negative experiences from these tool sets. A lot of times, I think rep has, maybe a big brother feel towards the technology they're using. It's an oversight tool. It's not necessarily helping them do the jobs they need to do in the field. It's not helping them serve customer or move product. It's often seen as a time suck. Most of the energy they spend is actually, clicking forms and entering data and serving the CRM or serving the system of record. It's not necessarily bringing them direct value from the effort that they spend in these systems. Right. And at the end of the day, it's also not really doing the job they needed to do. It may not be doing some of the very complex and key things that they actually have to do as part of their job, like entering an order or, a service request or a case or whatever it might be. It's really not serving a lot of those specific functions. So a lot of swivel chair and connecting to other team members is required just to do the daily job. As a result, a lot of these things have been typically driving pretty low adoption of these tools and overall general satisfaction in terms of what the field is getting or what internal users are getting from these CRM systems. So, we need to figure out a way to really solve these challenges. But what if we could actually transform what this relationship we have with technology is? What if we could actually change life sciences engagement in general? Well, that's really what our goal is at Salesforce, especially in Life Sciences Cloud. We really want to go from that kind of traditional system of record where we are serving the system, we are entering data into a system, but maybe not getting the insights that we need. How do we get to that system of insights? So we create a destination application where users know they can go and get all the data they need to serve their customer and to do their jobs, right? Also, we need to get away from those forms and those click-based user experiences and move into a more conversational experience where people can have conversations with their data, where they can query data, understand their accounts, maybe even enter post-call notes as conversational engagement and have that create and do the work required behind the scenes. And moving away from very hard-coded, expensive systems to manage from an IT perspective into a more semantic layer approach where a dynamic experience can be created and managed without having to build very rigid logic, which requires a lot of effort to manage in the back end, as well as moving away from kind of a componented system of record transactional CRM and moving more into a larger enterprise scale system of unified data where we can get all the insights from across the organization where we need it. So that's our goal. And we're really doing that with what we call Life Sciences Cloud. And it's really the key here is to connect all of that data we just spoke to, connect it to all those very key processes across all the different things you might be doing, like selling, servicing, transacting with customers, supporting a patient, and then adding that additional layer of industry data model and industry workflows to really make those processes easier and basically, I guess, better total cost of ownership to manage, right? And then on top of that, making sure we can add an agentic layer that really makes this experience very seamless and consumer grade across all the different channels, whether that's a direct to customer or patient channel through a web or a mobile app, whether that's a rep using a CRM tool, or whether it's a back office person or a case manager supporting a product issue, right? We want to bring all of that together in a single platform across the value chain and make that experience powered by agentic and data. So that's essentially what we're doing. I'll pass it back to Ben, and we can continue with the show.
Well, Gordon, thank you. Appreciate the foundation here and that information. As we get moving forward here next, I want to pull your attention, everybody here, to this first poll question. We would love to hear from the audience as we kick things off here. And this first question is, what is the biggest challenge with CRM in your organization today? Is it too much data entry, admin burden, limited adoption, poor usability, siloed or incomplete data, or lack of insights or automation? So we'll leave this poll question up as some of those results start to come in. And Gordon, I'll get to my first question to you, which really is around kind of the title of the conversation around CRM being a bad word in MedTech. You said it's been a challenge. I wonder why, in your point of view, that is.
Well, I think it kind of comes back to that system of record approach. I feel historically in my maybe 20 years around, CRM specifically in life sciences, the tools have been really built to maybe manage a rep, maybe capture very specific customer data for home office use. It hasn't necessarily been built towards helping and supporting that rep by providing the information they need for their role. So it really does kind of have that big brother feeling often. And it really just is typically a cumbersome system that isn't necessarily providing any direct value. Like why would a rep go to a system where the only data they get is essentially the data that they've entered themselves, which they already know. They already have it in their black book or in spreadsheets or sticky notes already. So there's really not a lot of value for them to enter that data if it's only really going to give back the data that they already have. I think that's been kind of, part of the big challenge. And those systems, some of them are 20 plus years old. They've been continually modifying, but not necessarily innovating and taking with the times in terms of what technology has been changing. So I think those are my main areas where I think it's been a pretty big challenge.
I think it's interesting as we end the poll, and I'll get your take on this, Gordon, because I think it kind of tracks with what you're saying is the majority, 40% of the people who responded to this poll here say that limited rep adoption and poor usability, that's the top challenge with CRMs facing organizations today. And then coming in kind of at a close second would be lack of insights or automation. That's 32% of the folks who responded here. I wonder what's your take on the results that you're seeing here?
I think those are probably my, if I was allowed to vote, which I wasn't allowed to vote, I was kind of upset there. Those have been my choices as well. I think, again, the system has to serve the user versus the user serving the system. And if it's not going to provide them insights or automate their roles, then it's not really actually providing any incremental value to what they already could do just manually, right? I think that's probably pretty accurate across the board.
Well, thank you to everybody who responded to that question. We've got one more poll question coming up kind of at the end of everything here today too. So stay tuned for that. But as we move forward here, Gordon, you've touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if you could expand a bit more. How have legacy systems held medtech organizations back from really realizing the kind of patient and provider engagement that they want?
Yeah, I think again, it really does tie back to the goal of the system, right? I think traditionally being kind of a system data capture, it hasn't necessarily been kind of geared towards engagement, right? And maybe it's also been fairly siloed where sales activity are happening in one area, service activities are happening in another, patient or customer engagement activities are happening somewhere else, right? By bringing those data sets together, we can really start to change the way that we serve, those patients or customers by creating a more accurate 360 and connecting all those different touch points. Historically, those systems haven't really been designed in that way, for very intentional reasons at the time. But because of the fact that we're focusing more on end user experience, we need to maybe kind of look at how we can change those historic systems to being more patient oriented or customer oriented, even rep oriented internally, right? So it does highlight some of the challenges of those being separate systems and maybe not traditionally integrated together.
You mentioned engagement platform versus system of record. Could you share a little bit more about exactly what that means?
Yeah. So traditional CRM, again, it's really meant for data capture, for entering your call notes, for next steps on the transactional side. It's not really built to delight a rep or to delight a customer. It's really not built to the same kind of standards that we would see, for instance, an application you use for shopping online for your groceries or for booking, a holiday. It's really more about capturing that data in a form as fast as possible, that, required data set. It's not really about, trying to identify what might be the next best message to engage with a customer or really to kind of change the experience from basically serving data to actually serving customer as a conversation or providing the customer insights or value, right? So it's all about that goal of we really need to create that destination application, but it also should be a destination for the customer. They should be excited when somebody pulls up an app and they can see their own data. They can see the value that they're getting from engaging with that rep or directly with customer service as well, right? And it really comes down to the systems of history were really designed as a customer relationship tool, not a customer engagement tool. So the UX, all of the experience was really kind of around that data entry point versus kind of sharing of content and data with people.
So what's different now? I guess why change now? What's the push
Yeah.
there?
I think now we finally have the technology that really does a few key things. Like, firstly, we can unlock data silos across an organization fairly easily without the traditional significant expense of ETL and copying data from system A to system B. We can now, with the advent of all the great data lake technology, a lot of our customers have gone and built very great aggregations of data or have the ability now to consider doing that, where historically they haven't really been able to do that very easily. Connecting that data together, that's a very key part that actually is required kind of as a first step to success with future things like agentic layer, right? And then secondly, I think honestly, AI has really kind of opened the doors. The ability to take all this great insight and all this data we have, create customized user experiences that are very dynamic, right? Based on the data we have, using AI actually allows us to really create that next level experience where historically we've been kind of stuck behind a significant amount of effort to build customization and personalization in traditional CRM and other channels, right? That's actually been a pretty heavy lift. Technology has taken that away. We've commoditized a lot of that connective tissue and AI on top of traditional CRM, as an example.
Okay. What are some of the biggest pressures or the biggest challenges, I should say, that people would have to overcome to get this new agentic engagement platform of the future? What are some steps that you see them needing to take to prepare?
I think this is a very fun discussion because I think what ends up happening now, like if you look at AI and if you look at personalization and you look at, collecting and creating these really strong 360-degree views of a patient or a customer or a partner, it really kind of points back. It's very introspective and cathartic. It's making us look at the last 20 years of infrastructure that we've built to support these CRMs. And maybe it's highlighting some of the challenges that we've maybe never really decided to solve historically, right? Like ship to build to address challenges in an ERP. That translates into maybe a very messy customer master database, right? A lot of the challenges with our data are being highlighted because now with AI, we really do need to kind of clean our data and make it not just necessarily clean, but also, consumable in a way that has context so AI can use that data to actually provide value, right? So I think firstly, that's the first thing people need to do is really dig into their data, not just clean it, but also make sure it actually answers the business contextual questions that they need to support those kind of agentic experiences. Secondly, it's also then the next layer is do we have the appropriate workflows to support maybe automating some of these tasks? That's not always agentic. That can also just be workflow automation, right? But then also could be powered by the agentic layer. So we need to really kind of clean our data, prepare our data, prepare our workflow and our business requirements in terms of what we're trying to solve, and then make sure that all these things connect together into that system of work. That's the most important is like we have all this great investment we've done over the last few years in data lakes and maybe third-party LLMs that we've maybe built internally or purchased from other places. We need to bring all that together in a way that we can actually consume that in this CRM in the context of work, whether that's a sales rep, whether that's a patient or a customer directly hitting a website, whether that's a mobile app or a chat experience. It doesn't really matter. We need to make sure that that data is there to support the intelligence and the personalization and the execution of those workflows. And we need to have those workflows very, very well sorted out. So AI doesn't really do magic. It's not going to fix your business processes. It's not going to clean your data. It might help you find challenges with data. It might help you execute and trigger specific workflows, but you still need to do the work, right? We still need to go back, have that cathartic experience, understand what we've invested on and where we've been, and actually then, elevate that with AI and this agentic layer. I think that's kind of the biggest preparatory things that organizations need to do. And honestly, it's pretty challenging too for some, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I do want to get into AI a bit more toward the end of the conversation here too. But also, you mentioned agentic engagement. I wonder if you could give a concrete example of what that might look like in
Yeah.
medtech workflow.
There's a million great examples. I think honestly, sometimes we need to look at some of the more simpler examples that are kind of day to day that actually bring a lot of specific value. So, in speaking to some customers, the old where's my order problem is a great one, right? We have reps that are looking to find orders on behalf of their customer and the status. We have distribution centers looking for logistics updates on orders. We have customers looking directly for order status. We have all these different people that are roughly doing the same set of queries, which are very important. However, they take a lot of time. Often it's touching multiple systems. This is a really great example of something that you could agentify, if you will, right? If you could, again, back to those kind of rules we said, if we can connect all those systems of record together, like maybe your ERP and your logistics partners, and create all of that kind of data set, you can then add workflows and an agentic layer on top of that. That allows anybody in that ecosystem of users to just say, hey, where's my order? And be able to identify who that person is in context, be able to identify what that order might be, ask some clarifying questions, and actually respond in real time because it can connect to all those systems in real time, right? So that's a really great agentic experience where maybe you're just hitting, as a customer, maybe you're hitting a website chat experience. Maybe it's a supporting mobile app that you have as a customer. Maybe it's a rep just on their field CRM tool asking on behalf of a customer in real time. That I think is a really simple example. There's thousands of examples like that, but that one example, just changing the way that we answer where orders are at any given time. In some cases, this is we've heard some customers say 40 to 60% of their back office and support people, customer-facing support, are answering these questions directly from reps, internal people, as well as customers, right? So one agent, one experience through an agentic layer could essentially remove 30 to 40% of effort potentially being consumed in the system on just answering one simple question of where is my order, right? It's a great example.
Yeah. Um, when you talk about some of these steps or the biggest challenges that companies have in making this shift, it probably can seem a bit daunting, right? When we talk about cleaning data and optimizing workflows, how does a medtech organization start this transformation? What are some of those building blocks you can start with?
Yeah, well, again, I'm going to reiterate this probably many times during this conversation, but those secret building blocks really are, usable data. You need that usable data, and you need those, workflows that really work to solve that problem, whatever it might be, right? And I think really there's a few key steps. It again is really kind of you need to connect all those key systems to either get the data or to do the work that you might need an agentic layer to do, right? So the transformation there, I think, is really to just firstly identify, some key areas of focus that you might be trying to add an agentic layer to. So like, where's my order as an example? We would want to make sure that we connect our ERP data and workflows so we can actually get that data and maybe even do some work with that data if we need to. We need to make sure it's clean and integrated with the CRM or whatever customer experience platform is being used to expose that CRM data to a customer or internally, and then make sure that all that infrastructure is available and can actually be used to get that data. And then after that, we then move into that workflow layer to make sure, great, we have the data, we have access to these systems with API or whatever it might be. Maybe it's MuleSoft. How do we then go to the point where we actually can execute those workflows and get that data, use that data, and provide that to that experience? And then thirdly, I think it really is about identifying appropriate use cases, right? I think AI, given the cost and maybe some of the uncertainty of how this kind of, these different pricing models and different ways that we consume data roll into a business, IT has to look at this slightly differently in terms of how they consume this technology. Businesses have to look at differently on how they actually build and model human versus AI kind of approaches. I think Mark Benioff said it first, like this is the first generation that now has to consider leading teams of humans as well as AI to do work, right? So this actually affects structurally how we solve business challenges in how we actually budget, how we buy technology, how we implement, and even down to what should a call center rep do, as an example, versus what should an agentic call center rep do, and how do they work together, either assistively or fully autonomously occasionally with that technology, right? So there's a lot of planning, I think, that has to happen at a business to technology mapping that says, this is how we want to build these roles of the future. So even though that's not really necessarily a technology step, it's a crossover step between business and technology where we need to really understand what that future state looks like and how to incorporate that into workflows, right? But yes, we still have to do that golden rule of connecting the data and the processes together so we can actually then have, whether it's a human assisted or full agentic role to actually do that work. And I think that's probably one of the largest parts of the transformation because it is kind of a paradigm shift than traditional, just, humans are going to do work in a tool. Maybe we automate some of it and that's it, right? So it's a big difference. And then I think once we have all this infrastructure, and we found some of those key examples, I think you have to hone in on a very simple example that's going to provide very quick value, prove the use case, show how this agentic model is going to work moving forward, right? Like back to where's my order, significant value gains from a single project, if you will, that can be then used to kind of iterate and move through and find additional use cases that we can add to that. And then eventually maybe you work to a fully autonomous agent that can actually support a lot of these things for you, right? And I think that's kind of a real key thing to think about. This is also prepare to move into a full kind of traditional or a fully kind of maybe future state agile model. Like this is not SDLC work. This is true agile. Agents and agentic layers very iterative. You're constantly tuning and changing. You're constantly adding new features. It's not a big bang approach. It's not selecting one huge platform. It's solving business cases and wiring technology together to do that.
I think, Gordon, this is a perfect time to launch our second poll question here, which kind of gets at the heart of what you're discussing, which is, what if you could solve one business challenge with this transformation, what would it be? And I would encourage our audience to take a look at the poll. They're on your screen. We would love to hear from you. Is it increasing rep productivity? Is it improving customer experience, reducing admin burden, or unlocking data for insights and AI? So as Um, as some of our attendees start to answer this question, and we appreciate you jumping in to tell us how you're feeling. Gord, I'll ask you my next question here too, which is how do you see patient expectations evolving in the next 3 to 5 years, and how should medtech companies respond?
I love this question, firstly, because it actually intersects between my two responsibilities. My other responsibility outside of medtech is actually, more of a consumer or a customer patient engagement side, whether that's through pharma or medtech. I think it's been interesting over the last few years. The expectation, I think, from customers, right, patients at the end of the day, they're consumers. They have consumer grade experiences. They have TikTok, they have Instagram, they're buying products through web. You can buy a car through TikTok now, apparently. So the technology
Really?
experience and that consumer experience is changing so significantly that expectation transfers directly to, to medical devices. Like I think, you know, um, patients are wanting to know, what brand of hip am I getting installed into my body? Like, they want to know how things work. They want to know how their new meter works technically at a technical level. Like the expectation of data and the expectation of experience is so high for consumers right now. I think medtech has to raise the bar. I think traditionally, even a lot of products, even though they are very intimate products. They're being installed into human bodies, right? It's extremely invasive, yet there's absolutely no connective tissue between the organization providing that tool and the actual patient, right? So that gap, I think, is closing. It could be something as simple as a QR code on a piece of paper on a kit that comes back after surgery for, again, a hip replacement, that actually you can scan that and register your product and know the actual serial number of the product inside your own body and actually be more connected to that, which could even start before surgery, right? That relationship, I think we're seeing is actually really it's changing from a hands-off product kind of, consumer product selling model into a very hands-on patient relationship. It's also really important too we've seen some challenges in the market with recalls, right? Where traditionally a product, maybe it's a capital product that has consumables, where there might be recalls associated to the device or the consumables connected to that device, where maybe having a direct connection to that patient would make recalls significantly faster and actually be more, an advocation of health for patients directly and be able to help with them. It could be something maybe an implant of 10 years ago has an upgrade, and we need to be able, with consent, to be able to very, very quickly reach out to those customers and indicate that there's an upgrade available to them. So there's opportunities for upselling and cross-selling. There's opportunities for better service. There's just, being able to support those recalls, being able to support next generation product introduction. There are so many things that we can do if we are actually not skipping, but also working alongside HCPs and surgeons and, the entire healthcare ecosystem, and directly also connecting and providing direct services to those patients. So I think with that expectation that patients want to be more connected to these tools and these products that are in their bodies or supporting their life, I think combining that with that consumer grade experience means we have a great opportunity in medtech to really raise the bar and change the way that we engage with patients and maybe get a lot of more value out of those relationships.
As we know, oftentimes medtech organizations can be a bit more conservative in adopting new technologies, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. But I wonder what lessons can medtech borrow from other industries that have successfully modernized their customer engagement?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to that. I think internally, I think we're seeing compliance being maybe not necessarily the break as we've historically seen that on innovation. I think they now want to be a partner. We were in some design partnerships over the last few years with some of our life sciences cloud customers, and we had a compliance person in the room that actually said, you know what? I'm kind of tired of hearing that I'm the reason why we can't do innovation. I need to be in the room. I want to be in the room, but I think we can actually provide a lot more innovation than we've historically been doing if we think of maybe compliance as part of this versus this kind of antagonistic force against innovation. It actually should be part of innovation, and we might be able to actually provide better value for customers and protect the organization better if we actually integrate these things and work together. So I think that's the learning, is making sure that we bring all of your compliance and legal teams together on the ride. They need to be part of that innovation, and often they have insights which actually often kind of maybe reset expectation. I've heard many times internally, oh, compliance will never let us do that. Compliance may actually be very well, engaged in that and want to help you do that innovation. So please engage them. That's a huge learning, I think. And then kind of externally, back to that customer experience, it really does need to be consumer grade. I think we're seeing success with organizations in other industries that have really leaned in, that have made experiences fun and easy to use and provide value. Much like we're saying for internal field reps or just, CRM users, the system has to provide more value than what they're putting into it. That's the same for customer experience as well, right? Those customers need to be able to go to an app or go to a service and actually get value, right? So not only should it be, I don't want to say glossy, but that, very high level experience, but it also should be providing value that's either going to improve their life, improve their safety, maybe improve their finances by directly offering things like rebates or intelligent ways to upsell, et cetera, and show them value. Like that's really the key is we have to then show value to all the different stakeholders as well as just upgrade and uplift that experience. And then predict as well, right? We need to be able to be predictive in what we actually put forward in front of a customer or a patient. It has to be very specifically, hey, based on you and people like you, this is probably the next thing that we think you should do, right? Here's the next product you should do, or maybe here's the next reorder, or maybe you should upgrade to a different level of service plan. Those are the things I think we need to make sure we do that really well in consumer experiences. We do that well in the auto industry as an example, right? But we're not really doing that well when it comes to MedTech and how we engage with patients.
Couple more questions left, Gordon, from me, but I would encourage our audience to put your questions into that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll have a little bit of time here at the end of today's discussion and would love for you to put any questions you may have there. Next thought, Gordon, is really about AI and where it fits into this journey. From your view, what's hype and what's real?
Yeah. I love this one. I mean, the hype engine is strong with AI. I think AI is actually powering the hype engine, so maybe it's self-fulfilling. But ultimately, if you look at AI, there's a few kind of key areas which AI is fantastic at, which is true and real, and we can get value today, right? So the first and foremost, I think the big scaling thing, if we're looking at kind of bottom line, there's a lot of work. Back to that initial slide earlier about, like something like 70 to 80% of effort by just about anybody in the system is actually to serve the system. It's like data entry and data management and processes and faxes still, if you can believe it, faxes are huge. All of that effort, right? A lot of that can actually be just removed. And it's not necessarily about, like removing, like often it's kind of related to reducing headcount, which sometimes ultimately might do. It's really about shifting the work so users are actually spending less time on administrative burden and more time in kind of, the ability to actually do the job, do the thing they're doing. I think the most ironic part about AI is it's actually going to probably do the most humanization of medicine than any other technology we've ever done, right? Because we're going to take away a lot of that administrative burden and allow people now to have more connective tissue. It's human to human. Like if I'm calling in as a patient or a customer for customer service or an actual maybe a health problem or a complaint or an adverse event, I want a human to engage with me and have a personal an empathetic engagement. So I'm actually being served as a human, right? I don't necessarily want to go through a call center tree. I might go through some AI to get to a human more effectively and faster, but I want the human to actually be serving me, not spending 80% of their time answering, and filling out faxes and web forms, etc. So AI is going to really help reduce that administrative burden across the board. I think that's a huge savings, bottom line value significantly. And it's actually some of those use cases are very easy to implement and actually very complementary and assistive to the way that humans are doing the work today. So it's very easy to put in, very low risk, very fast return on investment, and just really great scale tool for the industry. The second way is personalization. We've been talking about that concept of we need that consumer grade experience. Well, this is something I think, back to the why now answer as well. The reason why we've never been able to do this at scale is because it takes a lot of technology traditionally, and it takes a lot of, really hard work to actually build a very powerful data set and manage that so we can actually create that into personalization and marketing journeys and dynamic content and all those things. Well, AI is going to help us across all of those. It's going to help us do better, combining and summarization of all the data we have in the industry. It's going to build better segmentation. It's going to help us even build content, right? So AI itself is going to greatly accelerate and scale our ability to create personalization, whether it's marketing engagements or actually, guidance for human engagements to tell, humans, here's the thing you should talk to next with this patient or this customer, right? I think that's a huge area that AI is going to help. And really the ultimate answer, like the output of all of this, is we are now having a lot of that skilled work disappear. We are now also allowing, back to that point, is that human engagement becomes key, right? Human to human, top of license engagement for all stakeholders is exactly what we want, because humans buy from humans, humans trust humans when it comes to health challenges. That's what we need to accelerate and expand, is our ability to have humans solving the real challenges.
Allowing clinicians to serve at the top of their license, I think, is one of the
Absolutely.
best ways I've heard
Yeah.
AI's goal. So, well, Gordon, I appreciate this conversation, really. We've got just a couple of questions coming in, but first I wanted to share the results from that second poll question that we asked, and it looks like top two answers were increased rep productivity and unlocking data for insights in AI among the one business challenge that this transformation they hope would solve. I guess when you look at these results, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think that actually aligns kind of with our product roadmap as well, which is ironic. Our Life Sciences Cloud for Customer Engagement launching at Dreamforce is essentially really looking at that kind of answer. Like, how do we improve, sorry, rep productivity in the field? How do we maybe, again, eliminate the burden of a lot of the administrative work that happens, eliminate the burden of doing deep data analysis, increase in the power that those reps have by having all of that industry first and third party data in their hands, by connecting all that back end data and putting it into a mobile device that works offline and can predict what they need to do and allow them to enter call notes through conversation versus tapping away into glass. Those are the kind of the challenges that we're trying to solve. I think it's pretty aligned with the feedback we're getting from the industry, right? Again, if reps are spending 70% of their time serving a CRM or serving, the company by providing data and manually executing workflow, they're not helping customers make better informed decisions on products they should be using, right? They're not looking for an opportunity to position an upgrade or to extend a service contract or do all of the other things that we need to do in the field, right? It's a hard job. Especially things like surgical reps scrubbing in. There's a lot going on. We need to be able to make sure we take away as much of that back to that top of license. How do we get them to be in top of license mode, and all the productivity they're doing should be affecting directly top line and bottom line?
Another question comes in here from David, who asks, healthcare environments are notorious for spotty connectivity at times. How do systems work around this?
Yeah, no, great question. And I snuck a little bit of preamble in there too, right? So that disconnected mobile experience is really key for that kind of North Star CRM experience of the future, right? So that's one of the things that was really important for us, is to make sure that we have that capability so we can connect online and have all of that offline experience and data and everything we need. So when we're in the field, in a hospital basement, or just three walls deep inside the building, we can actually still, serve a customer by showing them content or capturing an order or whatever it might be, based on all the data that we need for them specifically as a customer, right? So that's really kind of one of the key tenets of the future state, is really good offline capability, as well as the AI capabilities and that really great mobile experience and that consumer grade experience, even for the rep, right? That's also very important.
You mentioned earlier the ability to have conversations with your data. What types of conversations are you talking about there?
Well, I believe, you can check out we have some great demos on the website of how the technology could work if you want to see some examples of what that experience looks like. But honestly, it's just simple things like, who should I see next, right? Tell me my top 5 accounts that have had maybe decline in consumption volume over the last 3 months. Like, being able to converse with your data in actual human contextual language, right? This is again one of those accelerators from NLP, as an example from AI, where we're changing humans don't have to learn the language of computers anymore. They can speak in human language, and the computer now understands that and can translate that into data queries, pull and present that data in a very beautiful bar chart or graph or whatever way is appropriate to consume in the flow of work. Again, having that AI in the tool set allows us to, while I'm just planning my day or while I'm actually doing CRM activities, converse with the actual tool, have it give me the pertinent content I need, whether that's to plan my trips for the day or plan cases at a surgery center or, prepare for that is, or whether that's maybe on the other side where I'm actually going to maybe tell the system to do things like get out and say, had a great call with Dr. Smith. He had some objections about some of the messaging. It looks like the consumables are running a little bit low. I need to place a few more orders. And he said, come back next week with some information on the new product. That conversation I have in a prompt, right, speaking to my device can turn into the actual CRM records behind that, where traditionally you'd have to come and sit down in your car, maybe crack open your laptop and actually click through and create a bunch of individual records, if you remember and if you have time, right? So that conversational engagement with the tool, it's game changing. It really does change the way, like, I think that's it. Like, that's how we turn CRM as that system of record into a true system of engagement, is really having that conversational experience with that data, right? Imagine every rep out there in their pocket, they essentially have an executive assistant. They essentially have a data scientist, right? They can talk to either of these at any time and help get insights, plan activities, execute calls, and do all these things just through conversation, right? Or type it through. Sometimes you want to type if you're in a noisy room or whatever it might be. But ultimately, that I think is that future state of CRM. It's going to be that engagement.
Well, Gordon, I appreciate your insights and your expertise. I think this is a great place to leave the conversation here today. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in too as well. Also, I want to say thank you again to the Salesforce team for their support of this webinar. Gordon, again, really grateful to you for your time and for your insight. And for the Salesforce team who's working behind the scenes here today. We're very proud of this partnership and excited to see where this goes next. So, Gordon, once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.